Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Today we have an all-new review of the new Sigma Spectrum eyeshadow palette. So I did get this in PR, so I did want to show you the packaging because I think this is beautiful. So this is what it looks like. So inside we get the palette, and then they also sent 2 brushes, which I'm really excited about. This palette is going to be available on May 13th on their website. This is going to retail for $65. I do have a code with Sigma now, and you can use that to, I think you saved 10%. I will leave it down below in case you would like to use it. But this palette is supposed to be every nude shade you can imagine with this stunning spectrum of 20 wearable matte, shimmer, and metallic hues from rich earth tones and soft beiges to glittering golds and deep browns. This timeless palette will never go out of style, making it perfect for every occasion and skin tone. We do get a nice mirror up here, and then we get the 20 shades. So we have a nice gradient of lighter browns, we have some deeper browns, we do have some more beige tones up here. There are some more pinky leaning shades over here, which I think is fun. I do think some of these shades do pull a little bit more cool, a little bit more warm, but overall, this is a really beautiful neutral dream of a palette. So I also love that they have these 3 rows of mattes and then this lovely row of shimmers down at the bottom. Now I have swatched these already, and I can confirm that the mattes are so incredibly creamy and the shimmers are also so smooth and so beautiful. So let's take a look at the swatches. I have already created a few looks with this palette, so I will take you back in time and talk you through those, and then we will create a look using this palette today. But let's first hop into those swatches. So going left to right, we have Sand Dollar, Coriander, Beach Grass, Camel, Star Anise, Papyrus, Mohair, Homemade, Macchiato, Cornucopia, Wallflower, Buttered Waffles, Brickyard, Double Espresso, and Peppercorn. The shimmers, we have Dune, Tiger's Eye, Spiced Peaches, Honeysuckle, and Clairvoyant. So this color story just overall looks so beautiful. It truly is a perfect neutral dream. So like I mentioned, I have already created 2 different looks with this palette. One, we definitely went in with those browns. The next look, we still stuck with those browns, but we went for an all matte look. And today, I think I want to play with the pinks. So let's go back in time and create those first 2 looks. Okay, so I think I'm going to start with Sand Dollar. I think I just want to put this one all over the lid just to kind of set everything down, just set down that primer. Ooh, this is beautiful. This is very pigmented. I can see myself using this shade for this exact purpose pretty much every time I use this palette, just because I do love something like this to kind of put down and cancel out any sort of darkness. I do rely on my primer to do that a little bit, but something like this can just make it a little bit more even. And I'm thinking for today's look, I kind of want to follow this second column here. You definitely don't have to do this. I just think it's a fun way to kind of use the palette. I'm going to go in to Coriander, and I'm going to use this one to start building up that crease just ever so slightly. Oh yeah, that shade is a perfect transition shade for me. That is perfect. I'm just looking at this color story. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Natasha Denona Biba palette, like the full-size Biba, but I actually like the range a little bit more and just sort of seeing the layout. From there, going in to Mohair. I'm using this one on the outer corner and blending up. So I think they've designed this palette to have these sort of columns so that if you're not sure what you want to do, you can just go straight up and down or side to side if that's even easier. I think that I love that design. I love how they've organized it that way. And I can see myself on days where I don't really want to think about exactly what colors to use, just following the columns. I can see myself just going all over the board too and just sort of following my heart. I do that some days, but some days I just don't want to put a lot of thought into it, but I still want to do something pretty. So I love that I have those options as well. I love that we do have that row of more pinky neutrals. That always makes me very happy. I do think some of these shades have warmer elements to them, and some of them I do think are a little bit more cool. Like this shade I'm using, the outer corner, feels a little bit more cool tone to me. And this palette can give you such a beautiful all matte look if that's what you're going for. But this row of shimmers looks Just beautiful. Okay, I think next I actually want to go into this top shade over here. I was going to go into this one, but I feel like this is more of the direction I want to go. Just taking a little bit and sort of working on that outer corner just to sort of deepen things up, and especially along the lash line, staying definitely closer to the lash line. These mattes are definitely blending beautifully. And Sigma is a brand I've been saying for a while. They've had a really good eyeshadow formula, but I feel like every new palette they come out with, the formula's even better. And I love to see that. Makeup by Mario is another one of those brands. Next, I want to go into this shade right here. This is Tiger's Eye, and this just looks so beautiful. Feels very, very creamy. And I'm just going to start putting this one. Oh, that's so pretty. Just the perfect metallic brown. I definitely want to create some all matte looks with this palette too. I really want to create something a little bit more pink. This is just a gorgeous, gorgeous palette. I mean, I knew I would like it. Honestly, the second I saw it, I thought perfect neutrals. This is gorgeous. Okay, now I'm looking for a little bit more precision. I want to go into the shade Dune. I want this one for my inner corner, and I want to bring it up just a little bit. Perfect inner corner shade. And then I want to just sort of bring this up just a little bit to add a little bit more brightness. So pretty. Okay, same thing on the other side. All right, that is super, super pretty. I definitely did get some fallout with the shimmers, but overall, I think the look is so pretty. Like, it's not too much, but it definitely allows me to get in all of my shimmers that I typically love. And I definitely think the mattes and the shimmers are so creamy. Let me pop off camera, I'll pop on some mascara, and I will be back to show you the finished look number one. All right, so here is the finished look number one. Just a super simple, basic, everyday look for me, but I think it's really, really pretty, and I love how it turned out. All right, so today I think I want to do an all matte look. I just want to keep it really simple today, and I think this palette is so perfect for those all matte looks if that's what you're going for, since they really focus on those 3 rows of mattes and just the 1 row of shimmers. It's perfect for that. So I think I'm going to start with the shade Beach Grass. This one is just a really, really perfect crease shade for me. I actually used this one yesterday. I just needed something very, very quick and easy. So I just popped this one in the crease and it was perfect. I could have, of course, done the same thing with a bronzer, but I also went in with the white shade in this palette and just put that all over the lid, and it was just like a perfect, simple little look. It just kind of cleaned everything up really, really easily. Goodness, these mattes are just so creamy and blendable. It's unbelievable. I think it's pretty obvious how I'm feeling about this palette so far, but I'm just really, really enjoying it. It's the simplicity of it for me. Next, I want to go into the shade Camel, which is kind of like a step up from the one I just used. Just slowly building that gradient. I do love a good all matte look, especially just a good brown. I just think it looks so clean and pretty. So focusing this one on that outer corner. This could also be an amazing neutral palette for bridal makeup artists. I think it would be beautiful for that too, because again, you have every single neutral and you even have like a kiss of pink in here. I feel like I could easily recreate my wedding eye makeup with this palette. Okay, so just continuing to gradually build, I'm going to go into this corner shade up here a lot lighter than I did with Camel, just because we are starting to get into these deeper shades. And also concentrating this one more toward that outer corner. With Camel, I kind of brought it into the crease a little bit. This one, I'm just really, really focusing on that outer corner and closer to the lash line. And I'm just also using a really, really light pressure. With my brush, you can see I'm holding all the way at the end. And that's just giving me almost like an airbrushed quality to the shadows. They're already doing so much of the work for me and already blending themselves. But using minimal pressure is also going to make sure that everything looks very, very blended. Okay, I think I'm going to go into the shade Peppercorn. That is this one right here. I'm just going to take a liner brush. This is the BK Beauty 208. If you are ever looking for a good angled brush that is going to give you a perfect crisp liner, the 208 is perfect. So just dipping in to the shade Peppercorn. And I'm not really intending to wing this out. I'm just keeping this right at the lash line just to give myself a little bit of definition. I think that might actually be as deep as I want to go with the browns. So I'm just going to grab a flat shader brush now, and I want to go into Sand Dollar. And I want this to be all over the lid. All right, same thing on this side. A look like this can be just so classic, so perfect for every day. This is going to be great for the office, for going out, whatever you want. It's just a very, very simple, clean look. That's what I love a good matte look for. It's just a classic. It's just that my fingers usually find their way into the glitter. I don't know how they do it, but they do. All right, let me pop off camera. I'll throw on some mascara and I'll come back to show you the finished final look. So here is the finished final look, and I love how this one turned out. It's just so clean and classic and pretty, and I just love a look like this. So absolutely love this look too. Let's get into look number 3. Now, normally I would create all of my looks in one video, but honestly, my allergies right now could not handle that. So I decided to just go for it. And I think today I want to start with the shade Sand Dollar. And I'm pretty sure this is just going to be my starting shade for every look with this palette, but it's just perfect for me. It's a really perfect shade to just cancel out everything. My primer does that, but it is nice to just have something extra on top. I do have my Sigma eyeshadow base in Persuade as my base color. And I actually kind of brought this one down a little bit on the inner corner just to really give that area some brightness. It's crazy to me how much more that opens the eye. Just something so simple. Okay, next I want to go into this shade right here. This is Papyrus. And I think I forgot to mention, but we will of course be doing some comparisons. At the end of the video, I want to compare this one to the Natasha Denona Biba palette, because that one is very, very well known as the perfect neutral palette, but I'm seeing a lot of similarities here. And one thing I immediately like more about the Sigma palette is that there are more shimmer options. The Biba palette has some lighter shimmers, but overall you don't get a ton, and I just feel like I'm a sparkly girl. I love a little shimmer, I love a little sparkle in my day, so I think I'll really, really appreciate having a gorgeous neutral that actually has a lot of these shimmers that I love. These mattes just blend like an absolute dream too. They're just so easy to work with. I will say they definitely are a little bit more powdery. They definitely have a little bit of kick up, but that honestly doesn't bother me much. Usually that means that a formula is going to be very easy to blend. Now I want to go into Wallflower, and I want this one on that outer corner, but I also want to start building it into the crease a little bit as well. These are some really beautiful neutral pinky shades. Like, they're not too much. I know a lot of us already have these very neutral palettes. We have these brown and pink palettes. So many of us have them, but there is something about the gradient in this one that just looks so beautiful. And I will say these pink shades really are just melting right into one another. And even though this is definitely the pink row, they're not overly pink. You know, they're kind of more like a dusty rose, which I think is really pretty. Okay, I think I'm just going to keep following that row. I was going to maybe dip into this shade, but I think I want to go with something like this. I think I really just want to keep that very sculpted crease and then go in with that super light shade all over the lid. I think that'll be really, really pretty. So going into the shade Dune and just popping this one all over the lid. Yeah, that was a good choice. And this is actually a look that I've created with many other palettes. A lot of palettes I have that have these more white champagne shades and then a bunch of pink mattes. I find that I create this type of look a lot, and it's definitely one of my favorites to wear on me personally. And what I love about this shimmer too is that it's not chunky. Like, it's giving me a good amount of shine. I think it looks really beautiful, but it's not at all chunky. It's just very, very smooth. I think it's one that's going to be lovely if you don't like to wear shimmers because they enhance texture. this is a smooth enough formula that I don't think you have to worry about that. Okay, I think that's beautiful. That's just a really pretty, really soft kind of look. But I think I want to go in just for a little bit of definition near the lash line. I think I might just take a little bit of cornucopia. Again, just to give myself a little bit of definition, but I'm not going to go in too heavy at all. And I'm just also going to focus that near that outer corner. All right, let me pop off camera. I'll pop on some mascara and I'll come back to show you the finished final look, and then we can get into those comparisons. All right, so here is the finished final look, and I am loving how this came together. It's just very soft, very feminine, very peachy leaning. It's not too pink, but it's still really pretty, and I love it. So let's get into these comparisons. Obviously, I am really loving this palette. I love this color story. I feel like every single look that I created was just so easy and effortless. Even when I tried to go into multiple shades, it was just so easy to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. And it was just, it took so much of the thought out of creating a look for me. It is, of course, a perfect blend of all of these perfect neutrals with these almost peachy leaning pinks down here, but it's just every single brown shade you'll ever need. It's true. And these shimmers are gorgeous, of course, but I love this. This is a palette that is definitely going to be living on my vanity. Now, because this Spectrum palette describes itself as the perfect neutral palette, I had to compare it to the Natasha Denona Biba, which has always considered itself much the same. Now, one thing with the Natasha Denona is you do get a black in here. So if that is important to you, just something to mention, there are also some gray tones in the Natasha Denona. Now, I don't know a ton of people who love gray tones. I feel like they can be so pretty, especially if you're going for a true smoky eye, but otherwise, the browns in here are beautiful, but the Sigma definitely focuses much more on those browns. Now, I'll pop up those swatch comparisons, and you can see I was able to very, very closely replicate the Biba palette with the Spectrum. So you can see that there were some shades that were actually almost shade for shade identical. So I was very, very intrigued by that, especially considering this one is $129, this one is $65. I was able to get something very, very similar. I like that the Sigma gives us a little bit more shimmers. Now we know Natasha Denona has one of my absolute favorite formulas. This palette is one of her older palettes, so this one doesn't have a lot of her newer, intensely sparkly formulas. I still think this is a great staple palette. It's an excellent all-neutral palette, but if you've always wanted this one, this could be a good one to grab instead, because you're going to get a lot of these very, very similar brown tones. You're going to get a little bit more in the shimmer department. You're not going to get a gray, but a lot of us don't wear a ton of gray anyway. The only thing you're missing is a black. However, the deepest brown in here does get pretty dark. So just something to mention, I was able to get very close to the Biba. I also pulled out the I Need a Warm from Natasha Denona because this one also has a lot of these similar browns. I thought about comparing this to Golden, but honestly, they weren't similar enough, I think, to warrant that comparison. I Need a Warm definitely had more similarities. In my opinion, I feel like the Sigma palette, the shimmers are a little bit deeper, but otherwise I got some very, very similar mattes from the I Need a Warm. So they're pretty close. I will say that the Sigma definitely has more neutral options, whereas the I Need a Warm is, of course, just very warm. This one has some warmer shades. There are a couple of browns in here that I feel are a little bit cooler, but otherwise there's a lot of just true neutral shades in here. But I also wanted to compare this one to the new Viseart Praline palette. So this was a limited edition palette. It came out around Black Friday and they've just relaunched it, and I think it might be part of their permanent line, but they've renamed it. It was originally Praline Chocolat, now it's just Praline. But this is also a gorgeous, gorgeous neutral palette as well. This has some warmer pops to it, but again, it's just a really beautiful neutral, and it has some really stunning shimmers in here as well. And of course, with the Viseart, you get 12 shades. Sigma, you have 20. Popping up the swatches, the shimmers, I was able to get some similarities. The mattes, there was a couple similarities, but not a ton. I do think this is just a really nicely condensed 12 pan palette. I think it's perfect. So depending which one works for you, I think the Sigma shimmers are a little bit smoother than the Viseart, but I have nothing bad to say about the Viseart formula whatsoever. Now, one thing to point out about the Sigma is that their formula seems to get better and better with every single launch. And I have said this for years because I have their Enchanted palette, which has been out for several years at this point. And that formula was okay. It wasn't anything special to me. And then I got the new mod when it came out, and I really, really liked that formula. I go back to that palette all the time. Last year I got the Cool Neutrals, and I love that palette. That formula is fantastic. And I also have their Warm Neutrals. I think the Warm Neutrals is more in line with the quality of new mod, but it's still an excellent palette. And then this I just absolutely love. Somehow the mattes just keep getting creamier and easier to blend. The shimmers keep getting smoother and smoother. It's just a fantastic formula. And I did also want to compare this to the Patrick Ta. One of my shades, my Patrick Ta, is falling out. This is the Major Dimension one. This is the very first neutral palette he came out with. Now, we definitely had some similarities with the mattes on this one. The shimmers, there was some similarities there too. Of course, the Patrick Ta is really, really pricey, and it does also have these two cream shades on the end that I honestly don't reach for. So if I had to pick between the Sigma and the Patrick Ta, I would go with the Sigma every time. I like Patrick Ta's matte formula a lot. They're very, very buttery, but I think if I had to choose, I would easily go with the Sigma. I think the Viseart and Natasha Denona are also excellent options, but if you are looking for a really good neutral, I would pick this one over the Patrick Ta. So overall, I am absolutely loving this Spectrum palette. I think it's so beautiful. I've always been a fan of a good neutral palette. Those will always be my favorite, and I will never get tired of eyeshadow palettes. It hasn't happened yet, so I don't think I will. I love that I get these browns, but I love that I also have these pinks for when I want to go for something a little bit different, you know? So I just think this palette is so beautiful. I will definitely get a ton of use out of this one. This one is probably going to live on my vanity because it's just so versatile. Like I said, it has every neutral you're ever going to need. So if you're working out of a palette that maybe doesn't have that exact shade that you want, that exact shade of brown, I always say that an all matte palette is great to keep around for that purpose. But something like this has all of those mattes, but it also has some shimmers, but this is something that's easy to just reach for if you just need a specific crease shade. So this one is probably not going to be at all for those color lovers out there, but if you are a neutral girl like me, you are neutral to your core, you're going to absolutely love this. But that is it for me today. Thank you so very much for watching. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. Let me know all of your thoughts down below, as always, whether you're planning to pick this one up, have you been eyeing it, do you have any questions? Let me know. I just love hearing from you guys so, so much. And that is it for me today. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.